to my show, Pathways to the Dream Lodge Cafe. And today I have two wonderful, very talented women with me. I love dealing with them because they're dealing in a realm of theater that takes a lot of guts. One-woman shows and monologues. So today we have Charlayne Woodard and Yvette
Heyliger.
Heyliger. I'm so sorry. Heyliger. We are going to discuss what these women do. They weave their magic, and I love both of them. Charlayne,
Hello there.
how are you today?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
I know you're bi-coastal.
Yes.
And I know it can be a hard trip, but I know you're dealing with it and doing and weaving your magic.
Oh, yes. It's great to be able to work in New York City theater. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter where I live. This is where I work in the theater.
Oh, fabulous. I read your monologue, Difficult, and I loved it. It reminded me of situations that I've been in the theater, because it just seems sometimes that the director doesn't necessarily want you to fly. I mean, I understand that there are limitations on the character, what the character is, but it just amazes me that sometimes you just held back. And,
I wrote difficult because what we have to do when we are in the creative space calls for a lot. And what I find is that on top of what we're giving to the work, it's very important to always be happy and lovely. And even though you're working on something awful, I found myself being, the director would certain people in charge. Well, are you okay? Are you okay? Of course I'm okay.
Yeah.
Must I constantly be happy in order for you to know that I'm okay? I'm in the creative space,
Yes.
and sometimes that doesn't mean happy,
No.
and so that I can make you feel comfortable. People have to be comfortable in their own skin,
Definitely.
and that should not be a responsibility of mine.
Yeah, they're putting their idiosyncrasies.
So
or
that's what
whatever.
difficult came out of
Yeah,
it, and it
I
happens
really
a lot
like
with
that
women.
piece. Yes.
That yes, we're told to be lovely and courteous and wonderful, but it's just in the creative space. I want the room to be everything that the material needs me to be.
Yes.
And not have to jump out and just, oh yes, okay, hello, yes, hi.
Oh yeah, that's like them wanting you to be a little girl, or daddy says it's okay, and that's not. As a creative artist, you shouldn't be forced into that, and I really love the piece.
Well, thank you.
And I love the pieces that I've seen you do. Pretty Fire.
My first
and
play.
Meet. You just bring so much energy and humor, and your stories are just so fabulous.
Well,
and,
thank you.
You just give them life, and I love that.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And Yvette, I read your monologue too. What are those? And you know what? It took me back to my teaching artist days, which could be difficult at times, especially these kids nowadays. They say, I know my rights, I don't have to do this. And it's like, excuse me, you have the right to get out of my room,
Well, unfortunately, they don't let you do that anymore. You have to dig in and deal with it.
So were you a teacher at one point, or?
Well, I was looking for a parallel career as an artist, and in New York City, Mayor de Blasio, and at that time, the superintendent, Carmen Ferenia, they had a program called Arts Matters.
Oh, yes.
And they were looking to bring the arts back into the New York City public schools full time for a long time, we just had teaching artists that would
Yes.
come in and then leave, but they wanted the artists brick and mortar in the school setting. And so I was selected for a fast track program, and they threw me in right into the deep end of the pool.
Oh, wow.
And so I had maybe 6 months of training, and then I was teaching.
Wow.
And so I didn't get to do the whole student teacher thing. I didn't get to
okay.
do the 4 years and then start teaching. We just got thrown right in. So that monologue was really out of my experience as a drama teacher in the New York City public schools.
And that,
Actually, it takes place in October, which is National Bullying Awareness Month.
oh, okay.
So it's interesting, we're taping
Right.
in October.
October,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wasn't even aware that they had that, but they really need it now because I've seen videos of these kids bullying. I mean, not school bus drivers, other kids. I've even seen some of them bullying their parents. I don't understand where this comes from at this time.
Right, and for brand new teachers, it's especially hard because we get placed in the schools that are the most challenging, that
Right.
are really the hardest. And I found that everything that makes you a wonderful artist, you're caring, you're empathetic, you're loving, you smile on the first day, and all of that, all of that makes you vulnerable in urban settings. And anyway, I feel that teachers are bullied. So the monologue talks about my experience as a teacher being bullied. And but having said that, I feel that our public schools, those kids are the ones that need us the most.
Yes.
And
I
you know,
agree.
I don't know that I will continue in the public school system. You know, I have a grandson. I'm older. I'm not used to. You know, I'm not used to the behavior that I encountered, you know.
Yes.
But they need us the most.
They certainly do.
Yeah. So I hope to go back as a teaching artist and just not a classroom teacher.
Yes, I've done that. Actually, I taught acting with a couple of other actors, and we really saved those kids' lives.
Yeah.
I call it watering the flowers because they were the junior high school, middle school, and they were having a lot of problems. But with the acting, we created a rap for them because that's on their level, and they worked out their problems. And some of them even went to an acting school in the summer. So I often wonder where these kids are now, if some of them have gone on or just helped them.
Well, I think if I can just go ahead. Do you want to say?
Well, it was the public school system
Yes.
that I grew up in that is responsible for my being an artist today.
Oh, great.
Because we had these teachers that would just open the doors to the theater, to the playwrights, to Shakespeare, to the Greek tragedies. I had this mentor, John Veely, who was amazing.
Oh,
and yeah, and then, but back when I went to school, in public school, we had orchestra, we had art appreciation, we had humanities. I mean, we had those things in the schools, and I think now, because they have so little of it, and the way they're doing it, it's quite unfair.
It is.
I also went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. I'm a founding alumni. And so, but aside from that, my mother took us to the theater, to museums, to the ballet. So I also had my sisters and I had a great deal of exposure to the arts. And I think I was going to say before that, in today's world where it seems to be a very mean culture,
Yes.
and we have a president who derides and belittles people, I think the arts helps to keep our students empathetic, in touch with each other's feelings, you know, taking in a person, seeing how you're affecting them. Those soft skills the children really need.
And that's really funny because I taught, they have a Duke Ellington school here, and I taught native dance at the Duke Ellington school. And this one little boy was he was the one telling me he had his rights, and I told him, no, you're not, you're gonna do this. And at the end of the program, I was so amazed that it made me feel so good because he kept saying, I love this dance, I love this dance, and he was one of the very ones who gave me such a problem in the beginning. So I call it de-thawing them sometimes because a lot of them don't have imagination now because they don't have that exposure to the arts. And you can tell them something and they will take that very thing and give it back to you. I said, no. I want to know what you think and what your, idea is. But it's not necessarily happening, but we have to have the arts in the schools because we are not machines.
Right.
We are not machines. We are human beings that need to appreciate the earth, that need to appreciate nature, and to be kind to one another. That is definitely, and I love the fact that you all do these one-woman shows and monologues because you're out there by yourselves. I call you heroes because sheroes because you're out there by yourself. You can't hide. You don't bounce off of anybody other than your mind and your heart.
Actually, for me, when I do solo work, I never feel as if I'm solo. As a matter of fact, if I put it in my head that I am solo, that it's all on me, then it's just an exercise in memory, in memorization for me. Because what I do is I use the audience as if they are my scene partner.
Oh, fabulous.
And I come out, I have to always be able to see them, and so that we could actually have a communication. And you want to, there's nothing better than talking to a group of people, and then when they go, like that, there you are, you caught that, and then you go back with something else, and there's like, oh no, and there's this back and forth, and there's this tennis game. The audience is your scene partner that changes every time the audience changes, and that's what makes it pretty exciting. And I'm sure you know this. That's what makes it very exciting is that it's a free fall for one. It feels like a free fall, but you have your blocking, you have your intentions. But anytime, there are times when there's a moment when I think this is a humorous moment, but I look in this woman's eyes and all of a sudden I'm filled with sorrow, yes, and things like that happen. So the play every night is the same words, the same blocking, but every show is different.
Oh, it must make you feel really good.
Oh, yes, and exhausted at the end because of the concentration that it takes. But the audience allows you to stay in there. The audience is there, and I always make sure. My director, Daniel Sullivan, always makes sure that the lights are just up a little bit so that the house has no idea that they are lit enough for me to see them. They think they're in a dark theater, safe. And I can see them and I can use them. I cannot work unless I can see them and use them.
I noticed that you used Daniel Sullivan in everything. Could you tell us, is he...
Well, Daniel, we started our collaboration when I had done Pretty Fire, the first play, at Manhattan Theater Club. And Daniel was the artistic director of Seattle Repertory Theater at the time. And they had a show that dropped out. So he sent Kurt Beatty to New York, who was also on staff, to look and see what's in New York that we can bring. And his board at the time had said, we really love a huge black musical for the last show of the season. Which, come on. So Kurt Beatty came to town and looked around, and they asked me to come.
Fabulous.
And on opening, and so right away when I met Daniel, we were just, you know how you meet people and you think, oh, I've known this person forever. We were like that, and the rehearsal period was wonderful, wonderful rehearsal period. And in that rehearsal time, I told a story about my aunt and my grandmother, and he said, Charlayne, write a story, a play about your aunt and her coming up north, and we will workshop it here next year at the New Works
Wow.
Festival. And so there I was. I only wrote one play. I thought that that play was to get me work and that I could tour with it or something. But it was that fun and games and that really safe place that the director always creates for us to, you know, mine gold. And I had to find the play again, you know. So, and then out of that, I told the story, and he said, work on it. And a year later, I was back at Seattle with the second play.
Oh, fabulous.
You see, so Daniel is responsible for me repeating this madness, and actually, you know, once that happened the second time, and it sort of worked.
Yeah.
Then I said third and the fourth,
Yes,
but
yeah.
I love the challenge of a solo play.
Oh,
I
yeah.
call them solo plays because they're plays. Mine are
Yeah.
50 minutes intermission, 50 minutes, and I call them solo plays. I find it's easier to get them published if you call it a play. I don't know how many one-woman shows
Oh,
are
yeah,
published,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's important to me that they be published. And
Yes.
I think when you present it as a play with one actor, that makes it easier.
I know Yvette has, how many books did you publish? Are they solo plays or one-woman shows?
No, both of my books have been complete plays. One was my first play, Homegirl, and this one is a collection of my plays that have been produced and critiqued in New York. And the book isn't just the plays; it's my process as an artist.
Oh, fabulous.
So you're hearing from me how I went about writing the play, the research I did, the muses, the inspiration I got for the work.
That's fabulous.
In addition to photographs from the productions and cast lists of definitive casts, and photographs and music. I wrote a song was in one of my shows.
Fabulous.
So, but these are my full-length plays. I'm going to do a book of my shorter plays and my one-woman show. I intend to do that. I've had a different experience than Charlayne. I'm what they call a self-producing. Oh, this is what a piece of work is, man. What a piece of work is, man.
Pick that up.
Full-length plays for leading women. A lot of love and work went into this.
Oh, great.
I was going to say that I'm a self-producing artist, and early in my career, when I left NYU, I had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I said, gee, let me start a company, and I discovered I had a talent for writing. I was there to study acting, but I discovered I had a talent for playwriting. So I started writing plays. At that time, I had no idea that dollars to black theaters around the country were drying up, and that a lot of the money was going to larger white institutions, your Lincoln Centers, your, you know, and for their Black History Month or their Women's History Month.
Yes.
Oh,
So it wasn't until much later that I learned that it was a good thing that I started. I started a company because there's no way to grow as a playwright if your plays aren't up, living and breathing in front of an audience, right? You can't grow as an actor. And we're not living in a time period where playwrights are nurtured through a particular company for years. And so, I mean, those days are over. So being a self-producing artist has been liberating and exciting, but it's a lot of hard work. You're wearing so many hats, you know. You're chief cook and bottle washer. And so it's funny, when I got up to do my one-woman show, Bridge to Baraka, yesterday night,
Yeah, I saw that.
oh my God, right before I went out, she's asking me producer questions, you know? Like, I gotta get out there as an actor and do this thing, you know? So it's very challenging in that way. But I know Charlayne knows that the Lilly Awards reported that only 3.4% of black women, it might be women of color, were produced nationally last year.
Right.
Oh, that's
And for white women, they're somewhere around 17%. But women in general are under 20%.
yeah.
And the men get the lion's share of
Right.
directing, getting their place.
And as they get older, they keep working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really continue to enjoy the fruits of the American theater in that way.
Yes.
So women, we're still struggling. We were hoping to get there by 2020, but 2020 is around the corner.
Yes.
So, I mean, it may be another 100 years for us. I mean, I hope not.
I hope not.
But that's the struggle that we face.
Yeah.
So it's so great to hear your story where you were embraced by a theater, and they come do your work. Not everyone is able
That's
to do
right.
that. I mean, I've had some of my plays done, Gloucester Stage Company, the Billie Holiday Theater,
Okay.
but by and large, I've been out there, hoofing it for myself.
Well, I enjoyed your play. I really
Thank
did.
you.
It was really nice. I mean, you had everything in it, and you just took us on a journey, and I loved it.
Well, Bridge to Baraka was inspired by the Black Arts Movement, which I didn't discover till I was well into my adulthood. But the Black Arts Movement was all about empowerment.
Yes.
Don't wait for anybody to give you anything. They're going to want to have something to say about what you write. Just write your plays for yourself, by yourself, about yourself. Get it to the masses. And that kind of spirit of entrepreneurship and not caring if anyone comes to review it. You're writing for the masses. You're writing for your brothers and your sisters,
Exactly.
That kind of spirit really caught fire with me. And so I thought, women today can take a page from the Black Arts Movement and be inspired by that. And so that's really the
Yes.
catalyst for the play. So you kind of follow my journey through to becoming fully within my Blackness, but also inspired by the Black Arts Movement. Yeah.
Fabulous. I know we were all at the Dramatists Guild conference, and I was thrilled because I got so much information that I could run with, especially a lot of the new things happening like podcasts, and I mean, it's just exploded. It's been around, but now it's like everywhere. I mean, every time I turn around, and I like what the Guild is trying to do, support their playwrights more. I know several years ago when I would go to some event or a lecture, the room was filled with nothing but white men. I remember being at one event, and they were supposed to prepare something for you before you got there. I was the only one who didn't get the materials. I said, how dare you? How can you leave me out? I was the only woman of color, and it was like maybe one other woman there, and then the rest was white men. But now I feel they're turning it around, and they're giving you a little more support, and I feel really excited about the conference and what they're trying to do, especially for women and people of color, because otherwise for people to write the same things all the time, the same themes, that's what I see that's happening. I mean, Broadway, as far as I'm concerned, is a mess because of what they're putting on. I mean, it's not happening. I know you were misbehaving years ago.
We just celebrated our 40th anniversary 40 years ago.
Wow.
And you said you sang this song.
But
or
what it
something?
is that what happened is I entered the theater even after I went to conservatory through singing.
Oh.
So I
okay.
came to town and fell into AINT and had to sing for 15 years.
Wow.
Because when I came to town, it wasn't about, you sing in this, you act in that, you do. I could not get auditions for straight plays. So for 15 years, I sang in all these shows off-Broadway and created those off-Broadway homes.
Oh, okay.
So that was why when I went and decided to write a play in LA, and I did it in their 99-seat theater.
Oh, I love
And that's where I had to put on producer hat, marketing hat. I didn't care about the money. I gave all the money, the proceeds, to the theater company that was doing it because I just wanted the space, And it was the most difficult thing to do. At the same time, doing something I hadn't been doing, except in my classes. It was really, so when I wrote the play, I had these theater homes that I had cultivated for 15 years of musical theater.
Wow.
That's why when I showed it to Manhattan Theater Club, they could say, "All right, Charlayne, we'll let you do
your
this."
dues.
Exactly. It wasn't as easy as it sounds.
No,
you know?
I'm quite
But
sure.
when I stood there at Manhattan Theater Club that day and saw they had an, the meet and greet, and after all those months of literally carrying my prop chair with me and doing everything, my husband and I, and I saw 50 people there to work on one play.
Wow.
And I burst into tears at the meet and greet because
that's
I
fabulous,
knew really what, I was going to, 50 people share what you do, but I was determined to break out of that mold that they had put me in, or that I'd let myself be in because I just wanted to pay my rent,
Yeah.